Hello, I'm Jan English Lewick. This YouTube video series profiles workplace anthropologists whose work directly influence their own workplace processes. The video series is part of a workshop in the Business Anthropology Matters initiative. As people increasingly spend their waking hours at workplaces, anthropologists need to understand those experiences. The practitioners profiled here have used anthropological skills to access, document, analyze, and relate the lives of workers and the businesses that employ them. Organizations employ anthropologists to understand a variety of worker-related issues within organizations, ranging from design to strategy. These interviews explore the practical, theoretical, and ethical issues that must be resolved to do workplace anthropology.
My name is Amy Goldmacher. I'm an anthropologist by training, and I'm an independent consultant based in the Detroit metro area. I do qualitative and ethnographic research with product, software, and experience design companies who know they need to do research as part of their design process, but they may not have the expertise or capability to do it themselves, so they hire me. My background, my undergraduate degree was in anthropology, and when I graduated, I didn't want to go to graduate school, so I found a job in the college textbook publishing industry. And after about 5 years of doing that, I felt I was ready for graduate school, and I found the business anthropology PhD program at Wayne State University in Detroit. So I got my master's and PhD from Wayne State, and an important part of my background and experience is that I had several internships while I was in school that helped prepare me for work in industry. So I worked on a project basis, and most projects have a common pace and structure. So there's less of a typical day and more like typical parts of a project. So in a recent project I completed, all of the stages were very similar to other projects I've done. So that would be having discussions with the client to understand the problem and develop a proposal, having a kickoff meeting and doing all the research preparation, doing the data collection, data analysis. Another phase would be synthesis and report writing, and ultimately a final presentation and delivery. So a day in each of those stages might be very different. Some days are spent on site doing data collection. I might be staying in a hotel overnight and being in a city far from home. Some days are spent in meetings face-to-face or even on the phone with clients, and some days I spend in front of my computer by myself in my home office getting work done. So I'm usually brought on as a temporary team member. When I work with agencies, I usually work with at least one other person, and this person is not trained as an anthropologist or even a researcher. This person might be an information architect or a designer, an industrial designer, and our competencies complement each other. So I am expected to design the research approach, lead the research, take on the lion's share of doing the analysis and the reporting. And this person is kind of a secondary person, might help me with note taking and certainly with talking through some of the things we heard. And then as we move into insights, this person takes over doing the design work, and I am their secondary person helping them do their design work. I think people who hire me are looking for skills like being able to pick the right approach for the problem, being able to understand the trade-offs between using certain methods, being able to be confident in writing the questions for the interviews, designing the observational strategies, collecting the data, managing the data, and leading the analysis. I think those are the key things that someone on a team or a manager might look for in a researcher. Yes, working with managers. Sometimes managers hire me and put me on a team with other people, and sometimes I work directly with managers. But I think in either case, I'm viewed as the research expert. And like we said before, the key skills of being a research expert are being able to come up with the right approach, choosing the right methods, being able to execute, and ultimately delivering some insights out of the research. As for the anthropological part, I think people think it's interesting, but it's not as important as being able to design and execute and do the mechanics of the research. They need to trust that I will get the job done on time and on budget. Okay, a project that I just completed, Senior Vice President of Human Resources for a global manufacturing company wanted to understand how to attract and retain the best talent for their company. And so she reached out to me to help them understand that and to do the research that was necessary to give them insights that they could use to create some new HR packages and programs for potential employees. Yes, I think one thing that I didn't learn in graduate school, but only learned along the way, was that it's really important to spend time to fully understand the problem before you start work, and maybe even before you write a proposal. So a client might come to you and say, we want a survey to measure something. You can't accept that at face value. It may end up being the right solution, but the only way you're going to find that out is to take the time to fully understand the issues they're facing and ask them questions and make them answer it. It's not just you taking the time, but getting them to invest a little bit of time in understanding the situation. Why is this a problem? How do they know it's a problem? Ask as many questions as necessary to fully understand, and only then can you come up with a proposed solution to the problem. So I think those were valuable lessons to learn earlier on in my career, and it's proven to be worthwhile. No matter if it's unpaid time or not, it's worthwhile to spend time really understanding that to come up with the right solution. Ethical issues. I think a common ethical issue is saying you're going to keep someone's confidentiality and yet still having to use the information to illustrate what a problem is and why it's important. And here's an example from this HR project about attracting and retaining talent. An employee told us a story about how he felt that his boss didn't have his back. His wife gave birth to a child. The child had to go to the intensive care unit. And even though his boss said you could have a couple of days off, he was still getting work requests. And while he was in the intensive care unit trying to be with his family, he's getting these work requests. He has to ask a nurse to let him out of the room and onto the roof where he can get a Wi-Fi signal. And the experience traumatized him and made him feel that, even though his boss said you could have some time off, it really wasn't covered. So the story was so poignant, and we really needed to tell it to the client, but yet we had to strip out some of the identifying details because people in this organization would recognize who this was. So trying to collect these meaningful stories that have a huge impact and yet protect confidentiality is always an issue, and trying to figure out ways to do that takes a little bit of time and effort as well, but you absolutely have to guarantee someone confidentiality if you promise it to them.